Have you always been interested in gender issues? It's not always been my kind of main thing I talked about as a child, but since, being 18 and being 19 and moving to London and experiencing a lot of street harassment, since experiencing other cultures, religions, including Christianity and Islam, and the way that they treat women and what they expect from women, I think you can't ignore it. And I really think gender underlines every other issue in the world, because if women were to rise up and if women were to have as much power as men, it would be a complete game changer. So I think that's where we should be starting from whenever we tackle anything. Have you ever heard from any intersex readers? If so, what kinds of responses have you gotten from them? Yes, I have. Specifically two I remember really well, one who emailed me through my website and one who contacted me on Facebook, and we had quite a long discussion and a chat about how the book had affected their life and that they'd never seen somebody like them in a book. So there are other people, but I remember those two very well, and even if it was only them that the book has affected, then it was well worth it, because they felt really alone, and hopefully Golden Boy means that they don't feel as alone. Hopefully the effect continues. Do you see intersexuality becoming a bigger theme in books and films in the near future? It has since Golden Boy has come out. There have been a few books, specifically in YA fiction, that I've heard about with intersex becoming a bigger theme. I'd like to write more characters that were kind of genderless, so, we'll see. But I definitely think it's much more talked about now than when Golden Boy came out in 2013. Are there any books in particular that influenced you as you were writing Golden Boy? That's a good question. I try to be very careful about what books I read when I'm writing, because books do really influence me. But in terms of the writing style and the voices, I think that's all me. But as I said, I read Middlesex, I read Annabelle, but neither of those are really like Golden Boy, so no, not really. Do you think society is becoming more accepting of intersex people? If not, do you think it will in the near future? I think intersex is still not as heard about as, for instance, trans, which is an issue that a lot of people put together with it. So I think the good thing about trans issues becoming more widely known is that intersex issues have as well. But I think the bad thing is that in terms of activism, they almost need two different approaches, or really we need to have a conversation about how as a feminist and LGBTQIA community we perform activism for women and trans people and intersex people, because all of these things require different approaches and different considerations. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the near future. I think it's harder for intersex people to stand up in a way, because what they want is to be treated, to not be treated like intersex is a big deal, and to not be given unnecessary surgeries. So it doesn't lend itself to kind of shouting, really. But I think there are some fantastic intersex advocacy organisations like OII in the world, and we'll see what they do in the future and what they decide they want to be. So thank you very much for all your questions. Those are a really good list of questions, and I hope I've answered them, reasonably well. So thank you, Chloe, and thanks to everybody who sent in questions from the class. Okay, Abby out.